Hello, DAOist. Trigger warning. Moloch might be around, and just stay aware, pay attention. I'm going to talk about some things relating to possible, inevitable, or minimal corruptions that happen in the process of stewarding narratives, because narratives are public goods. And the name of the talk is of Moats and Clouds. And I want to ask you first, if you ever look up at the sky, pay attention to stuff, where does a cloud begin? Where is the beginning or the end of a cloud? Sometimes you can see a cloud separated from the other clouds, but if you think about it, you blink and you look again, it's a different cloud. Maybe connected to another cloud, right? So I sometimes feel that we're not thinking about systems the right way. And I think the cloud metaphor is a great metaphor because it's one system of clouds. And sometimes it looks like they're separated, looks like they are individual things, but they're actually in connection and in coexistence with all the other clouds. It's a system. We, as the perceiver, are the ones who create the fence. We are the ones who decide where a cloud begins and a cloud ends. And if you're getting a little bit confused why I'm talking about clouds, is because I'm talking actually about every second order or first order cybernetic system that is complex and dynamic and interconnected. And if you have actively aware agents perceiving the system as it changes, it gets way more complicated. And that's all our markets, all our communities, all our families, all our friendships. And I don't think the way we do branding, community, events, respects the hyperobjects that we are trying to sense. So what is a hyperobject? A hyperobject is something that you can sense and you live inside, but you cannot truly touch, right? The premise here is that we're talking about narratives, right? Stories, the stories that we write, the stories that we tell ourselves about what lives are good to live or not. These are hyperobjects that are ultra complicated. And if you've ever seen the market turn from bull to bear, you've seen the flavor and the texture of that hyperobject quickly flip. So I want to make a little bit of a personal confession right now. I'm not doing so great. The narrative in my head has been turning a little bit sour. I think something happened in my career where people actually tell me stuff that they're doing and listen to the stuff I'm doing. And I got to see a side of things that I don't like so much. I've been seeing a lot of extraction. I've been seeing a lot of fencing, a lot of desire to control and to steward collective narratives for personal victories. And I felt like talking about that today, you know? And one that happens a lot is the experts that never experienced. Every bull run, this happens, right? People show up, they read one article, they have some opinions, and they know how to talk, they know how to take the stage, they have a platform, and this happens especially to a topic that is close to my heart. And you might be able to guess what that is. I probably am talking about DAOs, right? And the problem that why DAOs are so vulnerable to this is that there's so many components about living and existing and collaborating and co-creating within DAOs that is counterintuitive, right? So we're living a moment where the capacity to control a platform and a narrative, to launch a token, to raise funds to do X, and then the comparably hard accountability of checking on what happened after that launch is happening, it's breaking my heart a little bit. And I'm getting the jitters every day thinking about that this is about to get much worse, and I at least will get this on camera, and I will share the responsibility of protecting this world from what we don't want to happen, okay? And I really don't know if it's aspirational and I'm being mean to some of these things that I fence with a negative perception, if they're actually naive, or if they're straight up malicious. You know, it's almost like a game I play, trying to find out. You know, I ask generative questions because they might need actually support and not judgment. But it often wouldn't happen if you would just speak from where you actually are, right? Why can't you just tell the truth? That something makes you afraid, that you're trying to learn about something. The fake it till you make it mentality and the move fast break things, as we all know, should not truly win in Web3. But why is it so hard to just tell the truth? You know, it's because actually there's a lot to be gained by positioning yourself as a siphon of this public good. Narratives, stories are public goods just like air, that we breathe. The work that has been done to elevate a buzzword to something that is shared, a word that means not so much, like a DAO. This work was done by other people, but it's anti-rivalrous, and it's open to be abused, right? So free riders and a tragedy of the commons is all over, but we don't talk a lot about the intentional act of weaving and threading stories in the Web3 space. We do have code, and I have a great, actually, personal respect and love and joy with Austin, because he's a coder storyteller, which is something that we really, really need. So it's okay, so is that just the way it is? Should we bow down and accept that people are shit, people are gonna do shit things, and I'm just gonna stay with my friends, and I know that they're not shit, and then this is not gonna work if we wanna really, really change and make a dent at the economic dynamics of the world in a regenerative way. We must become a little bit aware of the narratives that we are putting out, how they're perceived, the narratives that we are receiving. There's a lot of complex dynamics there that are hard to navigate. It's much easier to just look at your wallet and look at your code and not get stuck in the mire of all this philosophy. So I'm gonna try to give some actionable navigational advice. Okay, just the ones I use, and then you can actually come give me some criticism about it, and at least we're gonna have a discussion and move this problem forward. Most important one, the only one that truly matters actually, sensing and nurturing ignition, right? You can't fake when you actually care about shit, right? And the way I navigate for this is I seek the discomfort in people's skin and body and shoulder when they're in the presence of BS, right? Ignited people do not need a lot of nurturing. All you need to do is let them stay ignited, right? So seek what ignites you so you don't have to do BS, because we've been conditioned to think that we have to seem grander than what we are. And if you're just taking care of your ignition, you won't do that. And seek people that have reached that space. And if they're not there, find a way to set that shit on fire. There's two ways to learn. One is love and the other one is pain. I often try love first, but it's up to you. The other navigational device I can offer is that you don't have a community. I was gonna curse, but I realized I'm in America, so I'm gonna try to curse less. You fuckers. So, it's not your community, man. There's no a community. We are all the community. Remember that cloud stuff from the beginning? You can't own a cloud, right? What you have is stewardship over an interesting topic, and all these people flock to you because of some historical advantage you've gathered, be it some woke, privileged, blah, 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 that I'm not gonna talk about, or just because you're fucking charismatic and you just gathered that around you, right? So awareness of that responsibility ignites me to ignite you for us to keep the ignition going. So I think this is one of the important things about Web3 that I want to get out there. And please teach people why the cypherpunks are important and why decentralization, just as a side note here, because I sometimes, that's another talk. Okay, sorry. So if you can't own a cloud and you don't own a community and you're not fancying them to harvest them for profit, what can you do? Well, you can do what we're doing here, what many of us do, which is design attractors for the cloud, right? Design attractors and experiences that promote ignition, right? And if you're aware that you don't own it, and that's a shared narrative, and that you're actually temporarily blessed to be at the center of that attention, like the loving eyes that I'm getting from you guys is like a temporary thing that is a coincidence of the universe, right? So let's steward the narrative while people are looking at you and deliver it to the next guy, right? Or girl, or whatever. Or animals, I don't know. I think cats have stewarded a lot of narratives, to be honest. I do most of my communication in cat form. If you ever message me on Telegram, you know. But why is this so hard to do? Why do I have to stand here and talk to you and you are suddenly like, why am I charmed about this conversation that doesn't really apply to what I do every day? It's because we don't have language to do this shit. We don't have language for collective success narratives. What we do is we give the director a prize. We give the athlete a medal. We give one person the transaction, right? And now we're actually at the cusp of an age where we do have that language and we do have the technology. But the technology is coming first. Things like drips, things like what Austin just showed. But now we have to learn how to like literally win together, right? And we need a research center for this, or at least I would like to steward a research center for this. Because these collective narratives need to evolve into in real life experiences, right? Everybody that's stuck in the general admission line right now, and we are the lucky few that have the special piece of fabric, I want to think around this. And I can't just say, it's bad. I need to come with a prototype that changes this story, right? So I want to evolve them in connection spaces that unfold in real life. And I want to invite you to be there with me so we can craft cultural public goods together that once we figure out how it works, kind of like open source tech, it just spreads like wildfire. Everybody's used it. Oh, it's a free plug for James Vaughn's product. Yeah. So once we figure out how to do it, it just spreads really, really naturally, right? And one of the big surprises for me is how an accidental project of mine that was me, Gil, and two other people that are not here today, Inga and Luke, we decided to make an event, and we're gonna have 28 days to talk about it and just make it. And now that's the DAOist, and people suddenly think I'm like important. But also they don't know Gil that well, and they are not talking to Inga, right? So one, the DAOist is an accident, it's a bizarre thing. It could be important, but it's not that important. And again, it's being done by tons of people. So making sure that we have a space where we can keep developing this and then we can share the harvest of this collective win is what I'm trying to do now. So if you think that this is a cool idea, if you think like, oh, fuck this guy, I need to code and I need to do other things, I probably should, to be honest. Because I can't do it for hell, I couldn't, right? So, but I know this stuff kind of a little bit, or at least I feel called upon to interact with this problem. And if you feel it too, come on, let's go, right? Because come together, stewards of the memetic airspace, right? And now why did I cross out stewards? Because steward is kind of a heavy word actually. It has to do with some medieval crap there. And so I want to change it to doulas. Doulas are the people who are responsible for bringing things into existence and bringing things out of existence in a loving, supported way, right? So come together, please, stewards, doulas of the memetic airspace. How am I doing with time? That's perfect. All right, so the calling is let's come craft the lore beyond organizational boundaries or brand goals. Let's make storytelling a thing of its own and not a function of marketing. Because in a truly regenerative, shared, green-pilled universe, the only marketing we need is hugs. I know it sounds hippie as fuck, but it's the only marketing we need is hugs, right? So instead of thinking of a company that you're gonna start, instead of thinking of a collective that you're gonna start, can we create language to create connectives, right? To create initiatives that are connective tissue in nature, because we have technological skeletal structures, and then we have capital muscle might. What's missing right now, for me, in my opinion, is this connective opportunities, spaces where people who not necessarily agree, not necessarily see eye to eye, can come together in non-destructive interaction to exploit that beautiful tension, to sharpen and shoot narrative arrows that go really far, right? So if finding out how to culture is like your thing, or if finding out how to culture together specifically is your thing, come over to the Metahub, which is a space that we're building in Portugal. Sorry. I'm a little nervous. It's the first time I get nervous to give a talk. Come over to the Metahub. You can see what it's all about at the DAOist.co/dawn. It's a shared co-living, co-working space where we're going to be receiving residents working in tech, art, and policy, and all the funders and organizations that are part of this DAO called Dawn that is governed by 1155s, blah, blah, blah. If you watch my other talks, this is like a continuation. I'm writing a book at every event. So everyone that's part of Dawn is going to share this space. And then you can send people to stay over 2-3 weeks a month, get food, and work through hard problems. So if you know somebody who's in a larval stage, somebody who's going through speedrun.eth, and maybe they want to collaborate with, let's say, Colombian artist, and then we need somebody that is a policy student from Slovenia, let's bring them together to the Metahub and build a collective win together for weeks, and then send them back home, keep them developing, they can check in later. If we can keep a space like this alive, and a little bit funded, but not too funded, and I managed to never launch a goddamn token, this project has been successful. We go live on the 1st of April in Lisbon. This is the house. Thank you, DAOists.